Imagine it's 2900 BCE. You don't have an iPhone alarm. Instead, you have a giant, muddy river and a very specific star. If the star shows up and the river doesn't, you're basically looking at a very hungry year. The Nile wasn't just a river. It was the literal lifeblood of Egypt. Every year, like a house guest who brings snacks but ruins the carpet, it flooded. This wasn't a disaster. It was the main event. The ancient Egyptians needed to know when this party started. They noticed that right before the flood, the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, would reappear after being gone for 70 days. They called Sirius Sopdet. When Sopdet blinked in the dawn sky, the message was clear. Get your buckets ready, boys. The water is coming. This was the world's first cosmic snooze button. Forget spring, summer, fall, and winter. The Egyptians kept it simple with 3 seasons based entirely on their damp surroundings: Akhet, Pere, and Shemu. Akhet was the time of the flood. From June to September, the fields were basically a giant swimming pool. Farmers didn't farm. They probably just sat around inventing board games and waiting for the mud. When the water receded, it left behind Kemet, the Black Land. This wasn't just dirt. It was high-end, organic fertilizer delivered for free. It's like Amazon Prime, but for mud. Pered was the emergence. The water went away, leaving perfect soil. This was the busy season. If you didn't plant now, you'd be eating sand for dinner by July. Shemu was the dry season. The sun was hot, the grain was tall, and everyone was sweating. This was the time to collect the taxes, because even in 2900 BCE, you couldn't escape the taxman. They figured out that the gap between floods was about 365 days. They divided their year into 12 months, with 30 days each. Simple, elegant, and very easy for the accountants to track. Wait, 12 times 30 is only 360. Where did the other 5 days go? The Egyptians called these the Epagomenal days. They were essentially a 5-day national party added to the end of the year. These 5 extra days were seen as the birthdays of the gods: Osiris, Horus, Seth, Isis, and Nephthys. It was bad luck to work during this time, which is the best religious rule ever invented. To measure the flood, they built nilometers, stone pillars, or staircases in the river. If the water stayed too low, famine. If it went too high, your house became a boat. The perfect flood was about 16 cubits. If the nilometer hit that mark, the priests would literally celebrate. It was the ancient version of a booming stock market. Here's the catch. The Egyptian calendar was 365 days exactly, but a real solar year is 365.25 days. Every 4 years, they lost a day. It was a very slow-motion train wreck. Because they didn't have leap years, the season slowly drifted. Eventually, the harvest season would actually happen in the middle of a flood. Talk about a scheduling nightmare. The pharaoh was responsible for the flood. If the Nile didn't rise, people didn't blame the weather. They blamed the guy in the palace. No pressure, right? The calendar wasn't just for farming. It was for festivals. Every god had a day. And since there were a lot of gods, the calendar was basically a giant cheat sheet for when to throw a parade. This 365-day system is the direct ancestor of the calendar you're using right now to check when your next dental appointment is. We just swapped the mud for Google Alerts. So next time it rains, don't complain. Just be glad you don't have to wait for a star to appear in the sky before you're allowed to plant your tomatoes. Cheers to the Nile.